PCVR gaming gets you way better visuals and access to thousands of new games and mods that make gaming on your wireless VR headset absolutely insane. But there's a ton of confusing terms you need to understand to get this working perfectly for any setup. Today I'm going to cover router specs and networks. Welcome programs to part 1 of my 13 video course on wireless PCVR gaming. This is the complete guide. So if you want to know what good truly looks like and how to get it, then stay locked, enjoy, and I hope it helps. If you want to follow along with this complete course, check the links in the description to the other videos and for the equipment I use personally. I'd strongly recommend you watch from this first video and I'll tell you when to skip videos based on your specific VR setup. With that said, a home or local network is the web of devices inside your home that are connected to each other. This usually consists of a main home router with other devices connected to that, like phones, TVs, laptops, and PCs. These connections can be made with Ethernet cables or via Wi-Fi, and all of these connected devices inside your home make up your home network, and you can have multiple networks set up in your home. In this course, we'll add a VR headset to your home network. The next thing to understand is the difference between your home network speeds and your home internet speeds. These are two totally different things, so don't get them confused. Home network speeds dictate the data transfer speed between the devices inside your home on your home network. For instance, file transfers from one device to another, or more specifically for this course, the data transfer speed between your PC and your VR headset, i.e. your VR game. Home internet speeds, on the other hand, dictate how fast your internet connection from the outside world and between the devices in your home is, which you use to search and download from the net, watch videos on YouTube, or game online. Your internet speed has nothing to do with the network speed between your PC and your VR headset for gaming. That's why if you have slow or no internet, you can still get a high-end wireless PC VR gaming experience. If you want to do PC VR gaming online, you'll need to be looking at both your internet speed and your home network speed. If you're VR gaming offline, you only need to worry about your home network speed between your PC router and VR headset. It's also worth noting that Wi-Fi doesn't just mean internet access. Wi-Fi is the name of the technology that sends data wirelessly between two devices. That can be internet data, or it can be the VR game data between your PC and your VR headset, either or both. Understanding that, we have modems and routers. Modems are responsible for getting internet signals from the outside world into your home. The modem then passes those signals onto your router, which routes and sends those signals to the devices on your home network. And that's what routers do. They send and receive signals between two or more devices. So we can also use one to send your PC VR game from your PC to your VR headset wirelessly. You can get a modem/router in one unit, or a modem and a router separately, and these are usually provided by your internet service provider when you sign up for internet to your home. When I talk about routers in this course, I mean just the router part. When it comes to setups, there's a few approaches you can take. One is a standalone setup. The second and the best way is to have a dedicated VR router setup. And the third is a dedicated VR router only setup. A standalone setup means you only have one modem and router combo, or modem and router, for everything to connect to in your home, including your phone, your TV, your PC, and your VR headset. The only times that I would recommend you use a standalone setup for wireless VR gaming are: 1. You have a Quest 3, 3S, Pro or other Wi-Fi 6E headset, and a Wi-Fi 6E or Wi-Fi 7 router which has a 6 GHz frequency band on it, and I'll get into what those specs mean in a minute. 2, you have an expensive high-end router you just want to try out first, or 3, you live in a house, not an apartment block, a house, which means you'll be far enough away from your neighbors to avoid any notable interference from their Wi-Fi networks. If any one of these are you, plus you can also be in the same room as your router, you could try the standalone setup to see how you go. Otherwise, I'd strongly recommend you get a dedicated VR router. They're cheap enough and you'll have a much better time. Whatever you do, don't use the modem and router your ISP gave you when you signed up for internet in your home in a standalone setup. They're always complete rubbish, and if that's you, then get a dedicated VR router. A dedicated VR router setup is where you have a main home router that provides internet to all the devices in your home, including your VR headset, plus a dedicated VR router that streams games wirelessly from your PC to your VR headset. This is the best setup, though I'll cover all setups in this course. And a dedicated VR router only setup is when you don't have or don't want to use a main home router at all, and it's just you, your PC, your dedicated VR router, and your VR headset. You can still get internet access on your headset this way, and I'll show you how to do that later. When it comes to WAN and LAN ports on your modem and or router, WAN stands for Wide Area Network, as in much wider than the inside of your home, i.e. the World Wide Web, aka the internet. And LAN stands for Local Area Network, so the little local network inside your home. And so a WAN port on a router accepts the internet signal from the outside world, which gets passed on to a LAN port, which then passes that internet signal or provides file and data transfers to another router or PC with a LAN or Ethernet port on it. Don't overthink this one, I'll show you what to plug in where as we go. Then there are Wi-Fi standards. If the standard has AC in the name or in the specs online, it means it's a Wi-Fi 5 router. If it has AX, it's Wi-Fi 6. AXE means it's a Wi-Fi 6E router, and BE means it's Wi-Fi 7 or GE if you're a company peddling gaming routers. The higher the number, the faster the speed it can be capable of. Routers have frequency bands at 2.4 GHz, 5 GHz, and 6 GHz. Wi-Fi 5 and 6 routers have at least one 2.4 GHz and one 5 GHz band on them. Wi-Fi 6E have an additional 6 GHz band on them, as do some, but not all Wi-Fi 7 routers. The higher the number, the faster and clearer the band will be from interference, which is good. Never use the 2.4 GHz frequency band for your VR headset. It's too slow and unreliable. Routers can be dual, tri, or quad band, and this is the amount of frequency bands the router has. Dual band will have 2.4 and 5 GHz bands. A tri-band router will have a 2.4 and two 5 GHz bands if it's Wi-Fi 5 or 6, or a 2.4, 5 GHz and 6 GHz band if it's Wi-Fi 6E or on some Wi-Fi 7 routers. And a quad band router will generally have a 2.4, 2.5 GHz and a 6 GHz band on it. Then each of these frequency bands are divided up into Wi-Fi channels. These are what your data packets, i.e. your VR game, are sent back and forth on wirelessly between your PC and your VR headset. You can think of these as highways that any Wi-Fi device, including phones, smart TVs and VR headsets, send and receive your data packets on, like cars, wirelessly. The width of these channels, or highways, is noted as 20, 40, 80 or 160 megahertz wide. A 40 megahertz channel is made of two bonded 20 megahertz channels. One primary channel you'd select, then an additional extension channel. An 80 megahertz channel consists of four 20 megahertz channels, so one primary and three extension channels. Similarly, a 160 megahertz wide channel consists of 8 20 megahertz channels all joined together. This will be important to know when you're selecting a channel later on. The higher the number, the wider the channel, and the more data that can be transferred at once, which is good. The problem with wider channels or highways is that they're more likely to cross over other channels. For instance, the Wi-Fi channels your neighbors are using for the Wi-Fi connections in their homes. And with their data or cars and yours all cruising on the same overlapping channel, this will cause congestion and car crashes, which is known as interference. And interference is not good. In this situation, the wider the channel, the higher the amount of interference you're going to get, the end result being slower and less consistent data, which for VR gaming is a very bad time. Also, wider channels have a shorter broadcasting range, so if you're more than a few meters away from your router, you may want to stick to the narrower channels. I'll show you how to pick the right channel width for you later. For now though, the overarching idea so far is you'll be picking the best Wi-Fi standard for your setup, then the fastest frequency band, the clearest channel on that band, and then the widest channel you can get with as little interference as possible. Keep that in mind. Outside of the norm, there's also DFS channels, which you'll usually only see if you live near an airport, military base, or weather station, and your router will need to support them. If your router can get them and they work, they're usually nice and clear from interference, which is good. Just keep in mind they can be prone to random dropouts when the local airport's radar fires up and kicks you off the DFS channel. Then there's the speed at which your data packets can travel along these channels, which is usually noted in the name, or at least in the specs online. For example, the Asus AX1800, otherwise known as the RT AX54, or the TP-Link AXE 5400, otherwise known as the AXE 75. If it's not in the name, you can just search the router speed online. This number is the maximum theoretical combined speed of all the bands on your router. So if we take a look at the specs online, you can see this Asus AX1800 has up to 574 megabits per second on the 2.4 gigahertz band and up to 1201 megabits per second on the 5 gigahertz band, which totals approximately 1800. Similarly, the AXE 5400 has up to 2402 megabits per second on the 6 GHz band, 2402 on the 5 GHz band, and 574 megabits per second on the 2.4 GHz band, totaling around 5400. It's worth mentioning here that if you have a ton of interference on the Wi-Fi channel you're using, you won't get these speeds consistently. When it comes to an IP address, this is the address of any device, for instance, a router, a phone, a smart TV, PC, or VR headset on your home network. You can think of these devices like houses on your street, and each house has a different address so you can accurately send mail to and from the correct house. Just like each device on your home network needs a unique IP address so you can accurately send data packets to and from the correct device. For everything to work smoothly, no two IP addresses should be the same on your network. IP addresses consist of 4 octets, or numbers, and generally speaking, when it comes to home routers, they'll have this subnet mask and an IP address that starts with 192.something.something.something or 10.something.something.something. With this subnet mask, it means the first 3 sets of numbers in the IP address are the network ID numbers. For devices to communicate with each other on the same network, for example, your main home router, your dedicated VR router, and your VR headset, these first 3 sets of network ID numbers need to be the same on each device. devices. This means those devices are all on the same subnet, aka subnetwork, and they can communicate with each other, which is what you want. Then the last number of the IP address is made different, so each device can be identified separately on your network, because again, each device needs to have a different IP address for things to work smoothly. If you set up multiple networks in your home, you'll give each network its own set of network ID numbers, so each device only talks to the devices within its own network. This part is overkill for this video, but it does give a better understanding of how networks operate. A static IP address will always stay the same once it's set, where dynamic IP addresses are temporary addresses that get assigned and changed automatically from time to time. And it's the DHCP server on your router that automatically assigns and changes those IP addresses. It's important to note that when you have multiple routers on your home network, only one of those routers should have the DHCP server enabled on it. Otherwise, you can get IP address conflicts and network configuration problems, which is not good. Don't worry about this too much, it's just good context. I'll show you what to set and when, and we'll primarily use a router's IP address to log into your router and change the settings later on. SSID stands for Server Set Identifier, and it's your Wi-Fi network's name. This may be the default name of the Wi-Fi network on your router, for example ASUS or TP-Link something if you have one of those routers fresh out of the box, or if you've set your own name to something like Wi-Fi Home 5 GHz like I have, that name is that network's SSID. In terms of router features, OFDMA and MU-MIMO are both technologies that may help reduce latency, lag, and increase efficiency when multiple devices are hammering your router at the same time. And these features are present on newer routers from Wi-Fi 6 onwards. Older Wi-Fi 5 routers have the previous OFDM and MIMO features. Router marketing teams will have you believe they're the best thing since Doom on a bread slicer. The reality is they're not always necessary. If you're going to use a dedicated VR router, these won't help much, if at all. If you're going to use a single standalone router for everything in your house, including wireless VR, then you should look for a router with these features. TWT, or target wait time, is another feature introduced with the Wi-Fi 6 standard that allows your device, in this case your VR headset, to go into a standby mode, which preserves battery life when it's not in use, instead of the router pinging it constantly. You don't need this feature, but it can be helpful to get more battery out of your VR headset when it isn't in use. Beamforming means that your router can send a direct Wi-Fi signal to your device, instead of blasting it around the room and hoping for the best. Any router that's not complete trash will support this feature, and that's a good thing. An access point, or AP, is a point on your home network, like a router, that your VR headset or any compatible Wi-Fi device can connect to and access data from or send data to. This is sometimes referred to as a bridge because it bridges or connects two devices, but this is more of a bridging functionality built into the access point mode in your router's settings. Contrary to popular opinion, we won't be setting up an access point because I'll show you a better way by manually setting the right settings in your router to get this all to work perfectly, no matter what router or setup you have. Doing this will also give you more control over your network and make troubleshooting a lot easier if you have issues. When we talk about a bridge or bridge mode, it typically means when you bridge or connect the networks in two different buildings together, so they can both access the same internet connection and transfer files between each other. Or in your home, when you bridge your main home router's network to a network in another room to make it part of one local area network, aka LAN, to provide internet access to that other room. Bridge mode can also refer to if your internet service provider gave you a modem/router in one unit and you want to upgrade just the router part to get better internet and home network speeds inside your home. In this case, the bridge mode tells that modem/router unit to just use the modem part so you can get internet from the outside world, but skip the router part and bridge or pass that connection onto your own better router. This is also known as pass-through or bypass mode on some routers, though those are slightly different too. You won't need to do this because you shouldn't use an ISP-provided modem/router unit for a standalone router setup. And if you go with a dedicated VR router setup, it'll bypass all that anyway. I only mention this because confusingly, some router settings menus and people will say bridge instead of access point, and some say both. So it's a bit of a mix. Just know that they're different. And finally, when we say hotspot, it usually means a mobile hotspot, like when your mobile phone has cellular data switched on and it's providing internet access via Wi-Fi to other devices, or when you enable the hotspot on your PC and connect your VR headset to that hotspot directly without a router to play VR games wirelessly. I strongly advise against doing this as the results will be average at best, even in a perfect scenario, and a cheap $40 dedicated VR router will get you far better results. If you have any questions, hit me up in the comments below and I'll help you out there. Now you know all the router specs and terminology for wireless VR gaming, you need to know which router to buy, whether you need Wi-Fi 5, 6, 6E or Wi-Fi 7, what PC specs, and all the possible setups to get the best quality and speeds out of your specific VR headset, because they do vary. To know that, you can check the links in the description of this video and go to the best routers, setups, PC specs video in this course. And that's it for this video. You can help support this channel and get exclusive content over on Patreon, and if you like this video, then hit the like button, have your say in the comments below, and hit the XO logo to subscribe if you wanna. I'll see you in the next one. Peace!